like I'm Sonny Crockett. Play with me, that's a risk. Gold chain, master risk. All white fit, Sonny Crockett from the Vice, yeah, it's pricey. I ain't tryna hear you whine while I'm dining. Telling yo, I ain't tryna hear you on my telly, yo. Play with me, I'm knocking like a stereo. Play with me, I'm knocking like a stereo.
Anybody for a feature touch me? Trying to be persuasive. I know all my haters on a first name basis. I'm the type to steal the flows from. Whoa, they the type to want my income. I think that I've had enough of jealousy instead of tanning. No, I'm never giving up. I'm
ask me how I'm living.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Brant Collins Show. We had a little hiccups going into this. I'd set up a restream event and I didn't have it set up right on Ecamm, so if it showed up a little late or a little confusing, I apologize. But trying to do this show, Wednesday might be a good night. Might start doing it every Wednesday. What I'm trying to do with this show is, if you watch us, if you want to learn how to stream live, you can catch us on the stream show every Sunday night. If you go to YouTube, look up the stream show with Strick and Brant, and we teach, we talk about people streaming live setups like this. But myself, as a content creator and as a video production person, I'm trying to probably expand my channel to look more at the creator economy, what goes into that, not only the gear, which everybody talks about gear on YouTube. I want to talk about processes. I want to talk about the business. I want to talk about the future, where all this technology is going and where it's changed. And tonight, my guest is my wife and best friend of almost 19 years. And
goodness gracious, that's a long time.
We'll bring her in. It's Heather Collins. Yay!
Oh my goodness.
So, Heather's been shooting video for how many years do you think you've been shooting video?
Let's see. Started in news. My first bona fide job was in 1996.
There you go.
In news production at a local TV station in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
So you've been at it for a little bit.
Couple minutes.
So one of the things that, but technology has changed a lot, right? So you probably, what did you start out editing? Did you start editing on computers or did you start tape to tape?
It was right at that transition. I will say this, one of the first cameras that I ever used was an M2 format, and I had to go shoot sports with a camera that had a separate record deck. So I had the camera on one side and the big honking record deck attached to it. And so it was reel to reel, but it was not but a couple of years, probably 2 or 3 years, that we were digitizing things. But it was right on the cusp, I'd say, at first.
Now, so you were actually, let's go back. You went to college where? So tell everybody where you went to.
University of Arkansas, Fayetteville.
Woo pig.
Woo pig.
If Strick ends up coming watching, we're going to have to talk about football and basketball.
Gotta talk about it.
So learning to shoot M2, when did you first learn to edit? When did you first, start learning to put stories together in packages?
Well, my major, which is that
they don't know.
Oh, sorry, was print journalism. So I wanted to be a print photographer, work for National Geographic. It's such big dreams. But I had a couple of professors reach out to me. They knew that I worked in the dark room, and they needed some photographers. They had a lot of reporters in the broadcast sequence in the journalism department at U of A, and they said, "Well, we think you're a great still photographer. Have you ever thought about broadcast photography?" And I said, "Well, no." Had not crossed my mind. But they kind of bribed me, gave me a wonderful opportunity, and man, it stuck. It just absolutely stuck. I absolutely loved the news gathering processes and putting the stories together and all that fun stuff.
So you leave college, you get a job in, what was your first video production job?
I got an internship at the local CBS affiliate up there, and then. So I was interning 5 days a week, going to school my senior year, and they needed a technical director for
Dr. Elo says, "Nice to meet the boss." You got that right,
yes.
Dr. Elo.
They needed a technical director for the weekend morning show, which I thought was awesome. But what you have to realize is the weekend morning show means that you have to be at work at 3 a.m. to stack scripts on Saturday and Sunday morning. And so Man, I thought it was awesome, but yeah, it was not as, I mean, come Saturday morning, 3 a.m., it was not nearly as fabulous as I had hoped it would be. But the good thing about that is they took me full time, like halfway through my internship. So I was a full-time student and also a full-time production assistant.
And so, so you intern, you're a full-time production there, and then what
also bartending.
Bartending. So then what did you do? What was your next job after that?
Let's see. I, just wide-eyed and wanting to do some traveling. I ended up taking a news photog job at an ABC affiliate in Colorado. And for some reason, they hired me. I had worked at the TV station for probably 2.5 years, and a little affiliate in Colorado Springs hired me for a news photog job, and I told them that I had already planned to move out there, which I had not. And I had gotten a job offer in Colorado, San Antonio, and Madison, Wisconsin, and I picked Colorado Springs. It's just kind of a roll of the dice.
And how was that?
So silly.
How old were you at that time?
Oh, early 20s.
So early 20s,
22,
you go to a whole new state, start a whole new job by yourself, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And
didn't know.
One of the things I wanted Heather to come on here for is I know in our eCam family we've got a lot of female producers and stuff out there, but not as many men, right? So
very cool.
This work is not very represented. There's not a lot of representation of women producers, and
I think it's a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah, it is. But I have to say that's pretty gutsy, that at 20 going, off to another state to do. You had a story, right? Like, didn't you have a camera guy or somebody teach you how to defend yourself with the tripod or something like that?
Yeah. Well, okay, so that's a couple of steps later, and a couple of other steps down the career ladder.
Okay.
No, that was actually, the sad thing is, that was actually when I moved back to Little Rock, where I was raised. When I moved back to Little Rock around, I guess it was 2002, maybe, went to work for a regional production house in town, which it sounds weird, but at the time, Little Rock had 3 major production houses in the United States, and just shot my shot and applied for a photog position at this production house that I really had no business getting this particular job, but I had a decent enough reel, and they hired me. One of my very first shoots, they sent me to work on a shoot for A&E. They sent me out that very first week. And
so A&E History Channel, that was with a production company, so that's a full-on. Now, did you start out, when you went to this production company, was it they just gave you a camera and you started shooting, or?
Well, it depends. It depended on the client, the shoot, and things like that. Some shoots I would go out, do some pickup shots, and some shoots I was the grip or the gaffer or the audio tech, and then some shoots I was the B cam, some shoots I was the DP. It depended.
Right.
So you just had to kind of ebb and flow and know your role for the particular gig, right? For the particular shoot, and be flexible, be able to adapt, which I think to this day still, still, that's one of the skills that I acquired very early on in my career that continuously pays off in spades, so to speak.
So I know production where she worked was kind of like being in the military for me. They're pretty hard on you. They're very very tormented.
So, yeah, some of it
hazing,
was very
a little bit of hazing,
a lot of hazing,
right.
Especially back in the early 2000s. There was not a lot of women in that kind of production. I was the only woman that was on the crew, so to speak. He wasn't a producer or anything like that. So yeah, there was a lot of hazing, and I tried my best to keep up, and probably did a lot of things that I had no business doing that I would never subject myself to.
So we have a lot of
now.
If I look at all the statistics, the people in the Ecamm fam I know are a little older, but a lot of the people I find that are watching us on YouTube
When you say
are
a little older, like our age?
Our age, yes.
Okay.
But the most people who watch us on YouTube or watch my channel on YouTube are going to be 18 to 44, with the peak there in the mid 20s. So I think that's, just one thing to let people learn. You could, you learn how to shoot, and you do all these things, but you're going to show up on your first job, and they're probably going to expect you to run cables and, rig lights and give you a hard time. And it's not, it's just fun, and they're trying to, teach you. And tell me the story now.
Dressing the cables.
Tell me the story. You don't have to say where you were working at the time.
Oh, Jesus.
But tell me a story. You told me a story that you kind of told me a story where you were young, you went out and you got to go by yourself and shoot something, and you double clutched it.
Oh, well, yeah.
So if you don't know what double clutch is, you think you hit record, but you hit it off and you get out of cycle. So I remember you telling me this story because did your boss get mad? What did he do in the end?
This was actually at the production house, the regional production house, when I moved back to Little Rock. So I worked at a couple here in Little Rock. And the thing that sucked the most about it was that this was for the Advertising Promotion Commission for his hometown. Like, this was kind of like a very, very much like a pet project for him. Mm-hmm. I was like 26, 27 years old. I was just trying to prove myself. And he was like, yeah, just go get these. I need you to go spend a couple of days out in this little town. And here's a list of shots. These are the landmarks. go get these shots. And I'm like, okay, sure. Just that's, part of the job. So went out. I think at the time I was shooting this was before HD. It was like Digibeta. It was like right where you were. There was that kind of fork in the road. Either you're going to be Digibeta or HD. And my boss had put all of his eggs in the Digibeta basket. And so, oh God, went out, spent the whole day out there, and shot some stuff. And oh, sweet Jesus, it was a combination of the double clutch, and then I had this wide angle adapter on that was just, it was super hard to, it was shit. Can I say that on your show?
You can say whatever you want.
It was so bad, and I was just mortified. And bless his heart, at the time, in this kind of production house, your role was very defined. You were either part of the crew, in that you were either the photog, the grip, the gaff, audio, or grip or gaff, or you were on the audio side, or you were on the post side, or you were on the animation side, right? Mm-hmm. And so I had a really good friend he was the one that was going to be cutting it, editing it, and he pulled me aside. He said, "Well, did you look at the footage?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Yeah, you're going to have to go back out and reshoot this." And I was like, "Oh, shit." So, yeah, I ended up going out and
reshooting, right?
Reshooting.
So that's what you learned, though, from that stuff, right?
Yeah. You'll never. That's the thing about media, news, and things like that. Unfortunately, the learning curve is so very public, right?
It's dynamic and it's ever changing. It's boom, 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 right?
And everybody knows.
Right.
Everybody knows.
Oh, did you see what she did? Oh,
Right.
I've done that too.
Yeah.
So Richard wanted to know, what is your dream role?
My dream role. Wow, that's so open-ended. Well, I love what I do now. I really do. I feel like I'm in a good place now, which I don't know if y'all know this.
Well, let's just fill some gaps here. So you worked at a production house. You worked at a few production houses.
Yes.
When we when we met, we were dating. You were working at a production house, and then we got married. Well, actually, before we got married, I got offered a job at a TV station, and we were only dating a couple of weeks because she was the only person I knew in town that had TV experience, and I asked her if I should take the job. And I remember, and I took the job.
That was a gamble too.
Yeah, we got married.
It was like a startup TV station that was
And
it wasn't one of the major networks.
You worked for Arkansas Children's Hospital for a while in their media department.
That was a dream job.
Telling stories and
Total
things.
dream job for me.
And then
Loved that
there was a
job.
hiccup in her employment and my employment, and we ended up starting our own company, and we ran our own company for 8 years. Almost 8 years, almost 10 years.
Yeah, that was a good run.
Yeah, we had a really good run.
It was good that we survived.
We decided not to work together anymore. We work very well together.
We do work well together.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and I think I'll tell you here's my buddy Rich from Texas. He's my liberal Texan, so
Oh, I love that.
we love Rich.
I love a liberal Texan. Congratulations.
I'll never forget. So one of the things I learned really quick, and I guess this is what you have to learn if you're doing production, is you have to learn, where to place your ego. So yeah, you can drink your beer.
Okay.
We, through social media, Twitter was new. I met a guy online, and he was like, I want you to shoot a motorcycle commercial for a big motorcycle company in Eureka Springs, which is a huge area here for motorcycle tourism.
Of all places, Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
It's one of the most beautiful places you've ever been.
Beautiful.
And ended up because their team writer was from Eureka, who we've become friends since then. But I can never forget we had this thing, and I said, sure, we'll do it. I sent out a budget, and we did it all, and she was like, we can't do it. We don't have the gear. So I bought the gear. She's like, we can't do this. So I said, well, just come with me, help me out. We got there. As soon as the camera came out, she took over. She was just like, and that was the hardest part for me, is because I had to deal with my ego because I wanted to shoot, she wanted to shoot. But then I realized we had a Suburban at the time. I mean, we were doing running shots with motorcycles. We had, walkie-talkies and a drone. There was a guy with a drone.
Just
It was
the two
drones
of
that
us.
first came out. It was just the two of us. And in that moment, I realized she was, 10 times better at doing what she was doing than me. And I was really good at doing the driving and the schlepping of gear and communicating with the clients.
Communicating with clients.
Yeah.
That's super where you excel. You're so good at that.
And we did really, really well. We had some pretty good clients. I think
Definitely.
the biggest downfall that I look backwards on is we didn't want to hire employees because we didn't want to deal with responsibility of employing
lot
other
of pressure.
people,
That's a
and we
lot
just
of
couldn't
pressure.
grow,
Yeah.
So it was a challenge, but we learned a lot from that. So let's go forward to now. Let's explain to where you do now and what your role is to Richard's question, and you're pretty happy with what your role is now.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So, so he got a job with the state working in the tourism department, and so with a mom and pop shop like we had, which it really was a mom and pop shop, I tried to just do the mom shop, and man, that did not last very long. So mom and pop shops need both folks. So I ultimately got a job here in Little Rock with an ad agency that is kind of all encompassing. It's ad agency, marketing agency, PR, print design, all that stuff. And they were actually looking for an art director. And I can do some art directing. I can do some graphic design and layout and things like that. And so just went in for the job interview, just thought, well, we'll see how this goes. And it went very well. They ended up kind of turning the job initially into, after our first conversation, learning that I had a video production background, they were like, well, this could be a video production job. And I was like, okay, so I can do both. And ended up just jumping into it. And it's been about 4.5 years now. Just a wonderful group of folks that I work with. Very creative, very earnest in the work that they do. Very just it's a good balance of some of the bigger clients that you really want to have, that some of the creativity that really pushes you. But it's not a huge agency, and everybody there works very hard, is very creative, is very talented. So I feel very fortunate to work there.
And I will say that I seen your growth there because they were able to get the equipment that, that we couldn't get.
Yeah.
But also it forced you to do some new things that you weren't used to doing, like the
Way.
DSLR camera, or there was some other gimbals and some other things that you had to learn, which I thought was really cool that you just jumped in and learned that. So what we're going to do right now, and one of the things I asked Heather to come on for is because that I know a lot of people that watch this show that's in the Ecamm fam, a lot of people are buying, pretty high-end equipment. They're doing their show in their room like I am here, and then they're trying to
Stream shed.
in their stream shed here. And then they're also trying to make a business out of it. So I want people, I never want to, and I've had some of those people call me like, I'm here and I've got my cameras and stuff's not working out right. And I just want people to know the realisms of the gear's great. You got your audio, get your lights, all that. There's so much more that goes into commercial production, when you start charging for it. So one of the things Heather really succeeds at is communication with clients, making them feel comfortable, and just the back end, what I would say is production. I mean, the 2 or 3 weeks that you have to put in before shooting. So what we're going to do is look at about 7 commercials that she's done. We'll play them at length, and then we'll go back and we'll kind of discuss them. And if you have questions in the comments, you can have questions. So
You go one at a time.
we're just going to go one at a time. All right. There we go. Credit Dave, how are you doing, sir? He said, yes, my bedroom is the new CNN.
Nice.
I actually got to shoot for CNN once. I was a freelance shooter, and I shot for President Clinton Library. It was pretty cool. So,
That's cool.
yeah, used to do a lot of that stuff, and then it just stopped. So it's weird. Technology changed. I mean, everything used to be. I used to run a production at a TV station, and we had satellite trucks, and she helped. Here, let's go all the way back. I ended up going to take a job as head of production for a TV station. I thought it was for one station in Little Rock.
Oh, no.
Come to find out, we had 119 stations across the United States. In my first 2 weeks on the job, I had to do a live satellite remote.
Live remote.
I've never done that before. So I called her, and she helped me do that. We got it off the ground. And then from then on, anytime I had a live show, she would call me from home during the live show and be like, you need to crawl under the desk and fix that light. And I'd be like on the phone crawling in a live shot, And she still does it to this day with the stream show. She'll watch it from time to go, like, move your camera.
I just want it
That's
to look
good.
nice.
Yeah.
But I also realize I have learned in my aged wisdom, my way is not the only way.
But usually
It's the best way.
I'll tell you one thing that you need to learn if you're out there watching now, just not even if you're working with your significant other or a family member or even your people at work, is that if people can approach you in the right way and give you constructive criticism. I know I get really mad at first. I walk away, I take a deep breath, and I go, they're right. And usually then I'll
Just
fix
time
it.
to digest it.
Yeah,
right?
just time to digest it.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
so we're
yeah.
going to go into the
I get
first
that.
commercial here. Do you want to set this up at all? This is...
Which one is that? You can do Sarah Carson.
You want to do that one first?
Yeah.
I don't know what that first was. All right, we'll do Sarah. And this is a video that you did.
Okay, so to set this up, this was for a client of ours. If you're in the mid-south area, so Arvest Bank is one of our clients, right? And so we did a campaign for them of commercials, of 5 commercials. And one of the ways that we really maximized the production process and the content was to do the traditional commercials, one for each person. The series was this concept of experts in their fields, right? And so this first one, she's an expert dog trainer. But one of the ways that we maximized this was to do a series of behind the scenes with our experts. So my role in this was to go shoot behind the scenes during the production process, the commercial production process, to create content that would be for social media placement.
So you hired a company out of Dallas, right? Was it Dallas?
Yeah, we shot in Dallas for a week.
Shot in Dallas for a week.
A series of 5 commercials for this particular campaign.
Hired a production company, and then she went along and behind the scenes made these spots for social media. So let's play the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
That dog is so cute.
Why dogs? Makeup? Hero's incredibly intelligent, and he's kind of a diva at times, and he'll let you know if he needs something. I train dogs using positive reinforcement. Like right now, I have some treats in my hand to keep him sitting here and being a good boy. Everything I teach is fun. So I do a lot of trick training, a lot of sports, agility, fly ball, dock diving, and it's just all fun, and it's just a game to them. It's rewarding for me because I perform with my dogs and I make people smile and laugh. But I also train people and their dogs. So I help the bond between them and their dogs grow, and I help them have a better lifestyle and household. All dogs are trainable. The biggest form of advice I could give a dog owner is just to have patience. A dog does not learn how to behave in one day. It takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of food. Good boy, good job, yes. My name's Sarah Carson, and I'm an expert dog trainer.
Very good. Let's take that transition off so I don't have to do that again. So a little bit about that. So there's a challenge when you're working with another crew, another whole production company. They've got a timeline, and you've got a timeline.
My whole thing was that I had to get an interview with each. So it was a day of shooting for each commercial, a different location, a different commercial for each day, right? And that's a full day of shooting for a full commercial. But then my job was to come in and shoot all the B-roll for the behind the scenes stuff without getting in the way of the production crew, of the commercial production crew. And I'm just by myself doing my thing. But I also had to get in there and get an interview with each person, because that's what drives the narrative, right? We want to know how you're an expert and all that fun stuff. And so it was interesting in that I had to set up the interview with the light and everything, which if you know anything about commercial production, that can throw off the main production. So I had to scout each location. It was in Dallas. I couldn't do scouting up until like the day of. I got there before everybody else and found a location that would not interfere too badly, and figured out what time slot I could get in there and set those interviews up for each one of the commercials.
Now, did you know exactly? Did you have the questions already figured out, or did you?
Yes.
Okay, so you had everything kind of.
So
you knew who the.
That was the pre-production side of it. So, and we had gone over that. So I knew what we were trying to achieve with these, and the idea was that this was really just to shed a little light on what it took to be an expert, so to speak. And so we did one with a dog trainer. We did one with a professional cake baker, one with a professional ice sculptor, one with a professional chess player, and the other one was a professional skateboarder.
Right.
BMX
rider. Yeah, I remember that.
BMX rider. And so, I kind of had, clearly I have, some preconceived notion about what it would take, but, had put together a list of questions for each particular one, made sure that the production crew was on board with, my approach for each day. And that the client was on location with us for the whole week too. They were watching off a monitor off site. So yeah. So they knew what we were up to the whole time.
I'm going to stop this right here. So if you watch this part right here.
A funny story.
Talk about how this changed your production.
Well, a funny aside on this. She was on a TV show called America's Got Talent.
Okay.
Before we had done this. and just wonderful, lovely, lovely, lovely. And she said that he was not the most affectionate dog. Naturally speaking, he's not super affectionate. I mean, he's very sweet dog and all that fun stuff, but he's very business, I guess. And she said he's never done that before, the licking of the face. And so when we sat down to start the interview, I mean, she had legit just sat down, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Hero, the dog, starts to lick her face. And she said he's never done that before. And so when I sat down, one of the processes, the indulgent processes that I do with every interview, and different people have different ways of doing this, I transcribe all of my interviews, and most of the time I'll send it off to a transcription service and can get a turnaround within a day. But she said he's never done that before, and so when I sat down to start putting this together, I thought, well, I can't use that, blah blah blah, and I thought, why don't I use that? Because it's a bank, and I thought, well, there'll be a little straight-laced and all that stuff. And I just thought, well, I'll just push that envelope and put that off the top. And client loved it. That was the first of the series that they had seen, and they really loved it.
And I think I wanted to use this as an example because a lot of times you're going to have a script, you're going to talk with your clients, you're going to kind of know what to get. If you're new, you probably don't know all of the nuances, but as you do it over time, you'll know kind of what B-roll you're going to cover, how you're going to edit. You're probably thinking about that in your head.
True.
But there's going to be these awesome little moments that pop up that you need to be able to pivot. And you asked the client, I mean, you showed it, you edited something together and proved your point. So you have to do that too. But we're actually going to go to the next. This is the cake baking one, I think. I just want to stop real quick and say hello again. We got Rich in the house, and we got Credit Dave. Dr. Elo says, what's up, Rich? And our buddy Kevin Cox is here. Hello, Kevin. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. So now we're going to look at this next one. This was cool. The cake baker, right? I think so.
If you want to learn how to do it, get your hands dirty, get in there, and what's the worst that can happen? Nothing. It's still a cake.
She was so good.
In my opinion, it makes you an expert at cake decoration if you've made all the mistakes and know how to recover from them. I feel like I'm an expert because I have made every mistake out there.
I love that philosophy.
Honestly, I think what makes someone an expert in what they do is practice.
I've double
So
clutched.
it's like you gotta practice on that recipe, especially a cake decorator. You gotta learn how to make the cakes yummy. They have to taste great.
Yeah, she was good too.
I mean, it's the perfect balance between art and science. I mean, you got to do it right or it's not going to taste good. But then you can make it look like anything you want. So it really appeals to both sides of my brain, and I love that. It's never boring.
They gotta be creative, hardworking, because it's gonna be a lot of hours on your feet. That's for sure, especially some intense little details that can take forever. But honestly, at the end, it's like every single hour was worth it.
I think everybody can make cakes. I mean, the best thing you can do is turn the oven on, put one in there, and have fun, because you're gonna make someone smile. No matter what it looks like, you're gonna make someone's day. Give someone a cake. It's the right thing to do. My name is Bronwyn Weber,
My name's Rocio Urbina,
and I'm an expert.
cake decorator.
Words to live by.
And I think what I want, another thing to show this to everybody, a couple things. If you saw her shallowed up the field, I know everybody wants to get the bokeh look at on their sets when they're doing stuff like this, but that's really what the bokeh is for, right? I mean, you're focused in on that person, and it's bringing them to the forefront. It's more of a cinematic view. What was probably the biggest challenge for that whole shoot that you could think of?
Let's see. Scheduling with the production crew, knowing that I was not the priority, right? But in my mind, what I was doing was the priority, right? Because that's my job. Cake is powerful.
The cake is powerful.
Words to live by, my friend. That and just the noise, because inevitably when I was shooting the interviews with our subjects was when the crew was either resetting the shot or something else, and so inherently there's a lot of gear going, a lot of things being moved around, a lot of clickety clack and stuff like that, and so that was a challenge. And then also while I was shooting, just trying to get my shots without getting in the way of what they were doing. It was a challenge, but I'd say the biggest thing you can do in this business is communication. And so communicating with that crew made a difference.
If you're a marketing director out there, if you're looking at this from a 30,000 foot view, not just a production person like us, you're trying to run a campaign. What I really loved about what they did is you knew you were going to have this, commercial shoot for these 1 minute, 30-second high-end commercials. They're going to spend all this budget on TV, but able to come back in and pick these kinds of things up to do on social, to do on, run YouTube ads. So try to think outside, like if you're going to go, especially if you're trying to pitch to a client, maybe this is all added value, right?
Totally.
Hey, the commercial's going to be $10,000, but you're also going to get this, and this. I'm lowballing that. I'm sure those were way more expensive than that. But so what we're going to go to next is another one of your clients is Fayetteville, Arkansas, where she went to college.
Where I went to college.
And do some tourism stuff there. So this is actually the music scene.
Oh yeah, so this covers the music scene in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
And you're connected to that how?
So, if you're familiar with Fayetteville, Arkansas, there
Party
is
town.
There is an entertainment district that runs through Dixon Street is what it's called, and there are a lot of bars and music venues on Dixon Street.
Where you were a bartender.
Where I was a bartender at George's Majestic Lounge back in the day, many, many years ago. And so this was very much a full circle moment for me, like 20-something years later. And this was this was the last shoot I had end of February before the pandemic kind of closed everything down.
Did somebody you interviewed you worked with or something back in the day?
Yeah.
So that is a full circle kind of thing.
Very full circle. Yeah, we actually shot it at George's. George's is one of the venues that we shot in.
All right, let's take a look at this one.
Yeah.
You set up your equipment, you sound check, and you're at your favorite venue. You can kind of feel like a little vibe setting in a little bit. You know, like, set 2 or 3 songs in, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a good show.
The atmosphere when you have the magic moments in live music, especially in Fayetteville, it's emotional. I think it's the emotion that you get to experience it, and life is crazy. It doesn't slow down, and when you have that opportunity just to check out a reality for a minute and get lost in the song, it's magic.
I don't think you can really put your finger on what exactly it is. You can't experience that unless you are at a show and you are present. I mean, you listen to music on Spotify or Apple Music and you hear the song and you like it, but you may not be involved in that song as if you were there listening to that performer pour themselves into it. That is the magic of live music in Fayetteville.
Fayetteville, he just knows who it is, and you got room to do your thing. You can find a little bit of blues here. You can find a little bit of rock here. A whole bunch of bluegrass and roots music. You can find some gospel here. You can find some soul music here, and you can find some EDM music here. It's a little bit of everything in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
There are all these different layers. And we've done shows on the square that are free and open to the community. We've done intimate shows, and that's a certain audience that wants to come out and enjoy kind of an intimate listening experience. And then there's the bar gig too. To me, that's what Fayetteville has. It might be a Tuesday night, and you're gonna go out and see music with other folks, and that doesn't happen everywhere in America.
When you want to come and you want to get Fayetteville music, that's where you're going to get the Fayetteville feel.
It's the going to eat at one of our awesome restaurants and then going to see a band and experiencing what makes Fayetteville cool.
There's just something really energetic about this place. It's original and it has this vitality that never goes away.
Whether it's a guy busking with bagpipes on Dixon Street or coming into any one of our venues, there's something for everybody.
That's what makes Fayetteville legendary, because there's music discovery happening. You just got to come and experience it.
Great.
That's fun.
I know we talked about it a little bit before because I was thinking of the questions I wanted to ask you. So I think a lot of people, when you're new, especially if the people that are maybe watching this that are trying to get into this as a career, how do you know what, so a lot of people here signed up for, that's kind of the YouTube mentality, right? We signed up for a clip service, and so we're pulling B-roll, and you're kind of making, using all this nondescript footage, this canned footage to make, your content better. Here you're getting all your own B-roll. How do you know what to get? Do you just have a sixth sense, or do you plan it out ahead of time?
A lot of the times you have an idea of what you need to get, right? Like, I'm going to go shoot this location. For that one, I knew that I was going to go shoot that band in the opening that night, and kind of had an idea of where it was going to go. Most of the time, if at all possible, and a lot of times it's not possible, I will try to shoot the interview first when I get on location, just because, you always have this preconceived notion. You've done the research, you've done the pre-interviews, you've talked to the client, you kind of know what they want to highlight and things like that. So you kind of have an outline in your head of what you need to get cover-wise, B-roll-wise. But something could come up in the interview and you're like, oh, there's a little nuance there that
nugget.
A little something kind of cool, that, I want to include that. And so there's a possibility that I could include that. And so I want to go ahead while I'm here, grab that B-roll just in case, because even if it doesn't make the main cut, one of the things that we try to do, we always try to maximize, the production value for our clients. And so a lot of times you'll have the main production, right? But you may have a behind the scenes production, or you may have a social short, so to speak, where it's a little snippet aside from the main piece, right? Or you may do a series of GIFs or something like that. And those are very, very B-roll centric.
So one of the things I'm going to go back through here, I'm going to turn the sound off here, and I'm going to kind of scrub this real quick. So, like, one of the things I noticed here, and I think this...
oh, geez, you're going to critique it.
I'm not critiquing. No, I'm just trying to educate some of the people. So, like Kevin here, Kevin Cox said he's going to come back to the very end or beginning and watch some of the things he missed. So, Kevin, we appreciate that.
Oh, Lord.
But one of the things I want to notice here is, like, you got something... If I can stop it at the right spot.
Oh, no.
There we go. Well, you see that spot right there.
Yeah.
All right, I'll play it.
So
here.
that opening stuff.
Right there. Right. Well, no, right there where the guy's at the counter.
Right.
And then like here, like you're using the typical rule of thirds. Is that something you consciously think of, or what is your thought process when you're framing a shot like the interviews?
As far as framing goes?
Yeah, because I mean, I think at least establishing shots, you're using the rule of thirds. Is that something you think about?
I don't think about like, rule of thirds or anything like that. Once you get into it, you'll know that you need your wider establishing shots. Like for my perspective, I've been doing this a long time. I wouldn't say like I'm just the expert of all experts, but my approach is, I want to have enough resources to build a good sequence, right? And so I want to have that wider establishing shot. I want to have some nice medium shots that can kind of help me, draw some parallels, relate some things and things like that. And then I love some good cutaways, like the good close-up cutaways and things like that.
So you feel like I know I do this, and I don't know, people say I think I am a fast editor. But I've told people, it's because I kind of edit it as I'm in my head as I'm going. Are you doing that when you shoot?
You know, I have an idea. I try
I need this
to
shot. I know I need this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try to remember all the little nuggets in the interviews. So my editing process, most of the time, is going to come from the interviews. Clearly, that's, especially with a news background, that's going to drive it for me. If I can figure out a way, if there's like a really great shot, then I got to include this shot because it's so fabulous. I'll try to figure out a way to include it. But I will say this. So, you know, especially with social media and things like that, you don't need a full 4K resolution or higher, right? So I will shoot 4K every time I go out and shoot. A lot of the stuff I will edit in HD, like 1920 by 1080, and that gives me a lot of wiggle room in the editing process
To zoom things up or move it
right.
around.
If I need to move things around and kind of reframe things, it's very, very helpful. If I need to do a slow push on a shot, that gives me a lot of room in the editing process.
The other thing I want to notice, like this shot right here, and this is kind of my soapbox, is I watch I watch a lot of YouTube, like I'm sure everybody here does. I love good camera reviews. I love Potato Jet. He does some of the most enjoyable camera reviews. But a lot of times I see people talk about low light capability, and they're like, their test is, here's me with a lighter, here's me with a candle. And that doesn't have any real world use in my opinion. But like this shot right here is totally low light,
Total low
right?
light.
You're not lighting that. You're not going into this venue.
Well, a funny story
Did you
about
like that?
was originally, so I shot that interview with a couple early in the day, and came back, went and shot some more stuff, and then came back because there was a show with this gentleman that night, and they told me, yeah, we'll turn on the mid lights where the audience was. We'll turn them up like halfway. And then when we got to that night, it was like, well, we're not going to do that. And I get it. It's their venue. It's their thing. They had a change of heart. And I was like, oh shit. And I'm like, well,
This is a beautiful shot to me. I mean, this is very powerful.
Well, what I did was,
because you feel like you're the person in the theater,
right? And sometimes you have to just go with it. You have to go with your situation, right? And it's kind of like what you said. It's very much about establishing a real sense of that experience.
Right.
And so I thought, well, screw it. I'm gonna establish this experience. And so that's definitely what we ended up going with there. So
Kevin once said, this is very insightful. Thank you both for doing this. He also said here, let's see if I can stretch this out. I think you get to a point where your brain just thinks the way without really trying after you create for a period of time. Do you feel like that?
It just kind of like
in a zone,
like muscle memory.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. 100%. Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of what the experience, right? So if you've been doing it a while, that experience, I mean, there's value in experience, right? You have to rely on that, and you have to trust that, but you also have to be open to new ways and shuffling things up and being able to pivot when you have to make those pivots.
I think the thing that I've been most impressed that you've been able to keep is that sense of creativity, because I know when we ran the business and when I did TV, I just get in this like, look, I got to get this shot. I don't have enough budget. I got to, I just have to, we just get it. I have this formula. It works. I'm just going to do it. But I noticed that when you do find those nuggets, you'll chase that nugget a little bit. Even if it doesn't get in the final mix, you kind of go down that road sometimes. But it ultimately it gets, you figure out a way to get it in the shot.
You're saying I'm stubborn.
A little bit. All right, so let's go to the next one here. Lord. We're going to go to, this is Sue and Carol. So this is Texarkana?
Texarkana, Arkansas.
All right, another tourism client.
Not Texarkana, Texas, but
yep.
Texarkana,
Sorry,
Arkansas.
Texarkana, Arkansas. All right.
Yeah.
And so this is for a CV or a visitors
A&P,
visitor
Advertising
convention.
Promotion Commission.
Yeah.
And again, the thing that with all of this stuff is really, and anybody who does this for a living knows this, like you try to plan, and the planning is really about you being ready and the client kind of managing expectations with the client, but also really kind of doing that groundwork toward creating a sense of comfort and ease with your interviewees. That is like if I could say anything to anybody watching this, that is what will pay off in spades for you when you sit down to put together a project. Is if you have an interview or a series of interviews where they have the interviewee has trusted you, has trusted the process, you will get a good project in some fashion.
I will say that, and she can argue with me all she wants, if you want to know her superpower, I think she knows cameras, she knows editing, she knows graphics. I feel like I know cameras, I know editing, I know graphics. I've sat with her 100 times. She has this sixth sense, this ability to make when she's interviewing somebody, to make them feel comfortable and to give them a side that they probably wouldn't give anybody else. And an example I'll use is a friend of ours, Doug Cryle.
Oh.
She was taking portraits of, he was a news anchor here forever, like, OG guy. He's a good friend of ours. He's, I don't take good pictures. I hate pictures. All right. And you took the picture, and he was like, "Oh, it's the best picture." Anyway, but every client we've ever had, everything I've ever sat with you, they always said the same thing: that you made them feel comfortable, that you're engaging. And I think that, to me, is if you're wanting to do this as a living and you want to be a producer. I've worked with some a-hole producers. I mean, I've worked with guys that are like, I'm the big director, and move and get out of my way, and that wasn't right, you suck, but
just
you have a way of
don't be an a-hole.
Yeah, you have a way of like pulling that person way further, because even now in my job at the library, I plan all these shoots. They show up and they're like, I'm not getting in front of the camera, and then I'll just be like, I don't try to convince them. I'm just like, but you're on these, I've seen you, and you're able to pull these people in, and I think it's amazing. So all right, so this is the Texarkana video. Nope, that is sorry, man. I had it all laid out. I'll make one error every show, or two.
Actually, right out of high school, I went to work for my mom. So she started the business in around '75. My dad just always told her that if she, that she could probably she could make a living if she had her own restaurant. And he just always bragged on how, what a good cook she was. So I learned from my mama, watching her and wanting to be like her. We're only open for breakfast and lunch, and we just start from scratch every day. Right now we're doing breakfast, but we're getting ready for the lunch crowd. But we make and hand bread our chicken fried steaks. We weigh out our hamburger steaks. It's fresh ground beef every day. My mother, one of her signature things here in our restaurant are our homemade pies. And so that recipe has been passed down, and that's something I take a lot of pride in. I'm living my mom's dream. It's work, but I take a lot of pride in it. So this restaurant is more than just a restaurant. If you've come to eat with me, you've come to my house, and I wouldn't serve you anything that I wouldn't want to sit down and eat myself.
What did you say? Sue and Carol. So, one of the things I always love is that she was able to pull that emotion out of her. Of course, she was probably bawling just as bad.
I get teary-eyed. I do.
Rich.
Because yes, go to Texarkana, Arkansas. There's a
lot of food there.
There's a lot of very good food in Texarkana, Arkansas, of all places, and they have a new entertainment district that's pretty fabulous and pretty. I mean, especially for small southern town Arkansas, it's pretty cool.
Let's go with another food video here. There's two more food videos, and then we can kind of talk about all of them in a group. He says that pie looked amazing.
Yeah, it's just a burger place, but you got homemade chili, beef stew, pinto beans, homemade cornbread, a variety of everything. And some of the times customers would come in and like, well, I don't know if I want a burger today. And I'd be like, well, what's on your mind? You know, and they'd be like, I don't know. What do you think? And I'm like, well, okay, I'll hook you up.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, so if it's not on the menu and I can satisfy them, then I make something and they're happy with it. We cut from like 300 to 400 patties every day, and everything in here is fresh, nothing frozen. Our customers are coming here, they're used to getting that fresh patty, and I'm pretty sure if we get a frozen patty, then we're gonna have some problems. We're like at home, you know, like you can come here and you're at home. I mean, everybody wants to be comfortable. So when you come, you know, you're like, come on in and sit down, and the first thing you're gonna do is you wanna get something to drink and something to eat.
So we did a
My
series of
customers,
vignettes
man,
after that.
They are my
One was
brothers,
about the Red
my
River
sisters,
Sand.
my father, my mother. They're my family. So, you know, when they come in, that's what we do, make them happy as possible.
Man, now I'm hungry.
You know, going to college at the University of Arkansas, they had a place just kind of like our downtown entertainment district here in town. And I used to always see this guy on the corner. So every time I went out, I would go over and get a hot dog. Actually, I would buy everybody in line a hot dog. One day I had just went over to him and I was asking him, you know, stuff about the card, and he was telling me he was just so excited about it. And I felt that vibe from him, and it stuck with me. And we're downtown on the corner of Wood and Broad. So, you know, if you come downtown and you hear loud music and anything that you can think of at a tailgate, you'll know it's us. We have a turkey dog, we have a vegan dog, and we have the regular beef dog. We have 10 toppings. We have relish, we have grilled onions, we have fresh onions, we have cheese, sauerkraut, chili, melted cheese, shredded cheese. And most of the times I see people, you know, just do the traditional, you know, ketchup and mustard. But I do have some that come and get the whole house. If it was me, I would have a turkey dog. I will put melted cheese on it, a little mayo, a little mustard, some French onion, and some jalapenos.
That's what I did.
The food truck scene, it's really a thing now. And everywhere you look, it's someone putting up a food truck. And I think it's good because it's supporting our city. It's making us shop locally. I'm a product of Texarkana. I cherish that a lot, and you know, and I feel like me giving back is, you know, creating a vibe where I can bring people out and just sit there and give my positive vibes out, as well as making sure that their tummies are happy. Got to be happy with a hot dog.
It was cold that night.
So does that? Man, I got to take a road trip. All right, take that one down here. He keeps coming back up. Rich really wants to go to Texarkana.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, that's my fault. Pushing the wrong buttons. Did you plan on it being that late at night, the lighting and everything, or did that was just
For the hot dog one?
Yeah.
No,
Right.
no,
I
not
didn't
at
think so.
all. Had gone down there to shoot that morning, and timing wise, ended up that they wanted to shoot. They started setting up at 5 o'clock. So the fun story on that is that couple in the hot dog story, Chastity and Brandon. They actually have like full-time jobs. Like he is a teacher. She is like works in social work, and just so lovely and so sweet. And it took a lot of planning to work around their real job schedules and their family schedules, and so that took a lot of planning just to even get it scheduled. So we went and we shot and did some pre-production, trying to line up the next couple of venues that we would be that I would be shooting over the next couple of months, just to stop in and introduce myself. And I find that most of the time goes over, that's a good way to kind of start the production process. It's just that face-to-face. But then we had to go back after they finished their 9-to-5 jobs and start shooting it when they started setting up at 5 o'clock.
Kevin says, it worked. You are an excellent storyteller.
Oh, Kevin, you're so nice. Thank you.
And if that's probably her number one thing she says all the time,
Yeah.
I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things you have to realize too, and if you're new to the business and you're there's just a real fine line between being an artist and being a business owner. And that was the problem I had. You're trying to keep things in budget and everything. But that right there, those spots completely you're trying to do your best job for your own reel and your own stuff, and
Totally.
trying to do it for the job, and you're trying to get the paycheck. But at the end of the day, you're changing these people's lives. I mean,
Well,
this is gonna really. I mean, these projects could really. You're vested, right?
You become very vested.
Right.
If you're like me, there's a degree of empathy, and I think that early on in my career, especially as a woman, and I hate to go there, but at the 20 something years ago, it was rare to see other women in the business, and I tend to shy away from empathy and connecting, and I did adopt kind of this this approach that I was going to hang with the guys, and I'm going to know all the gear and do all the things and all that fun stuff. But as I have kind of progressed, and I would say especially after I had kids, and got to go to work at the Children's Hospital here in Arkansas, to really lean into your ability to connect. And not to say that that's inherently a female quality, but, and I would encourage anybody, male or female, to do this, to really lean into your ability to connect, to your ability to really try to empathize a bit with the folks that you're working with, and that's not going to happen on every project. I will say this: there's some projects.
I can't stand this guy or girl or whoever.
I'm not going to be able to
connect
with this person.
You're going to have to do commercials you don't want to do for people you don't want to do. But
yes, this is
and that's
true.
where you be professional. But
totally, and then you disconnect.
But the real reason I wanted to have Heather on here is because I do feel like there's a lot of people out here doing this or experimenting with this, trying to make a living at it, and they get a little, what is it? It's kind of like FOMO. I can't remember the terminology. The gear, everybody's buying the gear.
Fear of missing out.
Yeah, they want to buy all the gear. I got all the best gear.
Yeah.
And don't forget to tell the story. Don't forget to lean in. Don't forget to take the different shots. It can't all just be, straightforward. Sometimes, and a lot of times you might have to experiment. Some things won't work. Some things will be awesome.
A lot of times they won't work.
Remember the ones that are awesome and file those away.
True.
Oh, so true. Kevin says so many times vulnerability leads to connection.
Totally.
Yeah, very, very good, Kevin. Connection and investment. There we go. So we're going to go on. So we got a couple more videos. Well, one more video, then we got some pictures. This is a little more different, right? This is pretty emotional, the Path Project. You want to set that up?
So there is a company that we do a lot of pro bono work with.
Gear acquisition syndrome. There it is.
Oh, yes.
Rich knows it. Rich knows it well.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So Path is an organization that's based out of Little Rock, Arkansas, that assists young people, particularly women, who have fallen into human trafficking and things like that. And so they do a lot of work within that scope, but they also kind of do work beyond. And so this particular project, we shot a series of training videos that they did in conjunction with OSHA. And so the idea behind this was to help create scenarios where maybe in the workplace, you could see where maybe there's like some leftover experiences where somebody may have struggled with that kind of.
All right, we're gonna watch this one.
You did great. It's okay. You'll get used to it.
Hey, how is my favorite team doing today? Good. So big weekend plans for everyone. Are you okay?
I'm sorry. I'm just, I'll be back.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
That was okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was, so we shot, I think, 7 or 8 different vignettes that OSHA would, and different companies could incorporate into their training with folks that kind of go out, people who work in the service industry and things like that, who do repair work, who can kind of show the red flags and kind of help identify people who may have struggled with trafficking or some kind of abuse in the past. So the reason why I actually thought to include that particular one was that it was a little more produced.
Right.
And again, it kind of leans into, that was a tough shoot on many levels. What was very tough about it, which was actually, it was tough for me as a woman, but the guys usually I shoot, I'm typically by myself, but this particular shoot, I had a couple of my coworkers go with me and help, kind of reenact some of these scenes and set up some stuff and organize and all that fun stuff. They struggled with it because it was my director who did the voiceover in the moment. And then one of our copywriters at the time, he actually was the hand that came in, and they both struggled with it.
But that's what the goal of if you
Right.
see that video as a training video, so you know you're on the right track, right? If it's making you feel uncomfortable, and sometimes
we had to break at one point and just kind of remind ourselves during this process, because they weren't all that geared toward that kind of abuse, so to speak, but they were sensitive, and so we did have to keep reminding ourselves that this is tough. Let's lean into it. Let's keep our, if you need to stop, we can stop. If we need to pivot this way, we can pivot this way. And it was interesting.
And you're starting to balance that line between being a producer or being a director, right? Almost in a cinematography way, and working with actors and trying to pull what you need out of them, but not go too far, because sometimes you don't have trained actors, sometimes you do. I don't know if that young woman was.
And for this particular series, we did go through. So we went through an actor's studio here in Little Rock, based out of Little Rock, and then one in Memphis. And then we also did pull a couple from an APB on Facebook and a couple of acting groups, because we were looking for a very specific look for a couple of the other scenarios that we ended up shooting.
The other thing to realize is I probably made more money over the years doing training videos. I did some for Altel cell phone, and it was the most boring stuff. It was literally cell phone complaints and stuff, but made really good money at it. So training videos is another opportunity for you if you have gear. It's probably, sometimes they're a little safer to start out on some of these training videos than it is doing these full-blown 30-second commercials if you're not into
reenactments
it.
are, to me, reenactments are tough
to make them real. Mine always seem cheesy, like.
Well, yeah, and I think reenactments are. I think that, and especially with this particular client, because reenactments can lean, if not done well, they can lean toward the kind of cheesy side, and so that was like utmost in our minds the whole time. Was like, oh shit.
You don't want to look. You don't want to be serious. And
Yeah.
All right, so those are all the videos. We're going to go through a few pictures. There you are, actually taking some pictures. I'm going to just click through some of these pictures here.
Not a behind the scenes kind of person.
So we got. Explain this a little bit. So this was interesting. You said.
Yeah. So this was actually, I think this was maybe in August. So this was a series that I was shooting, and I had to shoot 2 interviews, and I had like 30 minutes between each one, and they were both kind of, one was the mayor of the town, and the other one was the state rep of the town. So their time, that's to say that their time was very finite. They had certain windows, and so I had 30 minutes in between each setup, so I had shot at this location before. This is in Texarkana, and I had contacted them and was like, look, I've got to get this, shoot a couple interviews, and can I use your location? It's, before your lunch rush. And they were like, oh yeah, sure, come on in. It was super nice. So anyway, so the gist of that is to be able to pivot. And so I looked one side, for one interview, her interview, and then I turned around and basically flipped my set.
And if you don't know, it could be the same place, two totally different places.
Yeah.
So
the table kind of gives it away, but
there's the other good thing about being resourceful because a lot of times you don't have time to think, right? I mean, you just like have 30 minutes. We can't make it across town. We're not coming back. It might be 3 weeks before we can come back, or we might not be coming back at all due to budget restraints.
Not gonna get any other time with these folks.
So always, just look the other way. That's really good. Something good to try. So let's see here. Where are we at? That was pivot 4. This was another path video, right?
Yeah. So this was. I just like this because, again, it was for a couple of reasons. I love the lighting on it. These are actual survivors who were telling their stories. They were very hard to do these interviews. And the main thing I needed to do was to be able to show some connection, to be able to create some kind of emotion. I needed to see them, but I couldn't see them for safety reasons. And so, and I needed them to be comfortable, that I couldn't see them, but I could see them, right?
And not come off as a cheesy,
Exactly. And again, these are kind of, sometimes I love going out by myself on these shoots. A lot of the shoots I go out by myself. And then sometimes I'm just like, it would be so much easier if I had somebody to help me schlep this gear. But for this particular one, it was good that I was by myself, especially just because I had done the legwork. I had gotten them comfortable with me ahead of time, and they were very skittish and very nervous about the process. But when we got there, I had been able to kind of make those connections.
And a scene like this, not forget the subject matter, just a scene like this, dark, this is very intimidating for someone who hasn't lit very much stuff,
Right.
So
Right.
I think it's a really great way. So here,
you get there ahead of time, and experiment a little bit.
Right.
And if you are by yourself, yes, that means set your camera, go sit in front.
Well, you flip the monitor around though, so you can see yourself.
See what it looks like, and then do the best you can. That was a lot easier when I had better eyesight.
So we're going to go to Rich's gear acquisition syndrome. So
I don't have gear acquisition syndrome.
Well, you do a little bit because you do feel like you have to have a certain level of gear. I mean, tell us about the Sony FS7, SF5, and the A7.
So my workhorse camera is the FS7, and I've been working with that for the same camera for like the last 4.5 years, 5 years or so. And it's just it is a workhorse. I can take it and for my purposes, I would say 100% of the stuff that we've seen tonight, I shot on that particular camera. Yeah.
Now, a lot of you guys might be familiar. You might not be familiar. These are Cine cameras. I mean, these are shoulder mount cameras. I mean, they're big cameras. You have interchangeable lenses because I know you were proud when you got the Cine lenses.
Yeah.
So a little bit about what did the Cine lenses help? What did that give you?
Well, I mean, my point of view, I always say invest in your lenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And become very familiar with your lenses. And so again, it kind of goes back to my workhorse. you know, when I go out on shoots, if I have to throw a couple of lenses in my backpack with some batteries and a couple of mics and things like that. If I'm just going out to, you know, go run and gun some things, these Fuji lenses, they're beautiful lenses. Probably should not be throwing them in my backpack, but if I have to, they travel well. Super easy to work with, and it's just for what I do, it's a beautiful product. Blah, blah, blah,
So
blah,
Cartoni tripods, some Kino flows,
Yeah.
Small LED panels, boom mic, lav mic. Do you know what kind of boom mic do you have, or do you know?
I'm guessing it's probably a Sennheiser. Is what I
Sennheiser,
would guess, and most of the time, especially for interviews, I will set up a boom. I'm just a fan of booming on a C-stand. Don't really like using lavs unless I just have to, and I'm not
Right.
totally averse to lavs. But even then, like I'll hardline a lav.
Hardline is usually it's hard to trust wireless sometimes in some of these.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the
but
biggest
you
thing I
have
want
to sometimes too.
the big thing I want people to notice here, that a lot of people are working on lighting in their set. I work on my lighting here in this set, trying to get new lights and
I have
better lights.
opinions.
And she has opinions. But cutters, flags, posters, and bounce for your C-stands is, you know, some inexpensive stuff that you can.
Well, cutter and flags are not like totally inexpensive, but
you can make them out of,
yes, you
like
can
someone
make
working at home.
them,
They can make a foam cord, black foam cord.
right,
Like I got some here.
right.
Like
Even just getting some Duvetine fabric from the fabric store.
Like there's a just
yeah,
poster
even
board to
that
flag off
totally
some light if you wanted to flag off
create
something a little bit.
And
So-
what's great about that is especially with like a 4x cutter, you know, you can create like a really, just to even start before you even start lighting things, it's just to create this real negative kind of lighting sitch, and then just go in with your key and your hair light and some bounce fill and stuff, and really kind of create something. And it's not like, it's not super robust as far as setups can go. Like I can do it by myself. Like I'll typically do something like that by myself on, you know, as a single person on a shoot. It's super manageable, and man, it just really can set your work apart.
Right. All right, so we're going to look at a few other things here, and this is the other thing that
And
we
whenever we don't have to look at everything.
let's wrap it all up. So
want to.
we'll wrap these up real quick. These are some gifts that you use from different shoots,
Right.
And this is another way to add value for your clients. This is something you came up with, right?
Yeah, just maximizing your B-roll. You know, I have found that one of a good way to maximize your client's investment is finding more purposes rather than your production that you're contracted to shoot. So this was B-roll that I shot, that I've shot for different clients, and the fun thing about this is I can pull this aside and create social gifts for these folks to use in other capacities. So there's the welding shot. Next.
I mean, I think for right now, I'm experimenting a lot with shorts. You could turn these into vertical shorts. You could
Totally.
put those
Yeah.
you know, they could use those to, like the grill and the hamburger. Are you hungry? You know,
Yeah.
putting text with it, things like that. So
Check out our sizzle reel.
So yeah, check out our sizzle reel.
Yeah.
So don't think your shoot's over when it's over. The same thing for us. You know, I don't go through my shows and cut out clips because I don't really have time, but I probably should. If I was a full-time YouTuber, that's what I'd be doing, was going through and making more clips to share more content. But when you're pitching a job today, and I have a different opinion than maybe the agent she works at, is I just think that social and shorts and TikToks and all this stuff is so huge right now, and the ad buys are, you know, the money is so cheap to do huge ad buys. Being able to cut this out of an already existing stuff, I think, is just like, you know, double the money for value.
Yeah,
So,
and you know, also an approach might be like my production approach to this is like I love to go through and scrub through all of my raw footage and find my cover selects, the shots that I just really, really like, that I kind of think, oh, this could probably be really good. And so I'll just create a timeline of my cover selects. And some of the shots won't make the main edit. And so I'll pull those out and I'll say, look, this didn't make the edit, but I think it's a great shot. It could be something cool for a social post. These kids are so stinky.
Would you call them social?
Like, this didn't make this particular edit for this particular client. I just thought it was the cutest thing. And so they, the idea being like you could pull the client's logo in there at the end, and it was just a lot of fun.
I just think these are gold mine for a lot of people. So, pulling some of these things out, I think they're amazing. So.
Right, yeah.
This is another commercial. Bike race. It's not really loud. So you see where some of those gifts came out of.
Yeah. Totally. Well, what was interesting about this particular shoot, this was a couple weeks ago, was that, again, I was kind of like the backup, the behind the scenes camera. I have a knack for this shit. But anyway,
due to licensing rights for that race, you weren't allowed to shoot the race.
Right. Yeah. So it was the cyclocross world championship, and so they have their own team of folks, but the client that we were working for wanted to have their own
right.
content, and so they let us out on the field, so to speak. It was me and another still photog, and they let us out on the course, but the idea being that we would not shoot the competitors. So I shot a lot of spectators. That was the angle that I decided to take. Let's tell this story through the spectator's experience. And it was a lot of fun. And that was actually a very quick turnaround on that particular edit.
So Rich wants to know, what software are you using to edit?
Premiere. And I will say this, I was a Final Cut evangelist, so to speak, for the longest time.
Up until 7.
After
7, they ruined it.
They ruined it. And begrudgingly.
I'm the same. I've said this on this show. I've said
gritting.
it on other shows. To me, Final Cut Pro X is just iMovie on steroids. It's very, I know a lot of people love it. I love it for a few effects and a few color grades, but I would rather use Premiere Pro, and that's why I'm a big LumaFusion fan. LumaFusion on the iPad is just kind of cuts only. I mean, it's really just for working stuff. So, but Premiere Pro is what I use too.
Yeah, that's the go-to. Just anything, After Effects for graphics, motion graphics, Illustrator, Audition for any kind of audio tweaks that I need to make.
So I think we're here for like an hour and a half now.
Sweet
so
Jesus.
We're doing pretty good.
I did really good.
Yeah, she didn't think she'd get 30 minutes.
Holy smokes.
Does anybody have any questions before we leave? We're here. If you have any more questions, Rich or Kevin or Dr. Elo, credit Dave or Richard if you're still here. I appreciate you guys for hanging out with us tonight.
My gosh.
I think that one of the things I want to do with the Brant Collins Show is lean into this, what we've, we've been at this for 20 plus years,
Couple
it's
minutes.
some form or fashion, whether it be graphic design, photography. When we first met, we were doing wedding photography, right? I won't do that anymore. It was this pain. Rich said, y'all are great.
Oh, Rich, you're so kind. Thank you.
Rich is the dude. Hey, Rich, you need to get to Texarkana and try some of that food.
Yeah. If you do go to Texarkana, let me know. I can tell you exactly which restaurants to hit up, just depending on what kind of food experience you're hoping to have.
So that's it. Unless anybody has any other questions, I think that's it for tonight. We've got snowed in today, sort of. It's been icy. We came home early. We'll be off tomorrow. The kids are going to be home.
I may have to go in and edit.
She's going to have to go and edit.
For a client.
That's the only thing for her is like the gigabytes of information she has at work. It's really hard to work from home.
The proxy does not proxy here.
So, and our goal is we're on the list to get fiber. So if I could get fiber here, I might be able to set up a mirrored server for something that we could do something like that. But hey, you're on LinkedIn. if you look up Heather Collins on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I chose these videos. So a lot of these videos that we showed tonight are on my LinkedIn, which I have not updated in a couple of minutes. But
Yeah, so Heather Collins on
You'll
LinkedIn.
see them again.
Follow her on Facebook, Instagram. We've done a lot of projects together.
Maybe not on Facebook.
Maybe not Facebook, yeah. This is just a small snippet of her, what she's done over the years. Is probably the newest stuff you've done. I'm super proud of you. I know you've done, really good.
Aw.
We've done a lot of shoots over the years together. We've done short films together. We've won awards for the short film festival. Yeah, we'll do maybe that'll be next show. We'll do the 40-hour film festival stuff. And stay tuned, subscribe. I'm on this kind of a mission to get to my YouTube partnership to where I need 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers. I'm at 75. I've been doing a lot of shorts, having some success with that. And I think next Wednesday, I'm going to probably try to do this on Wednesday. And so I've had some luck with shorts. I've been making some shorts in Canva and editing them in Canva. And I was showing somebody the other day and they couldn't believe I was doing it so fast. So I think next week I'll maybe do some tutorials on how to edit shorts in Canva. And some of the tips and tricks that I've seen that have worked for me. And if you're a content creator and you love doing this and you have a YouTube channel, subscribe here, follow here. I'm going to try to help push you to that next level and, use some of our wisdom and experience to push it up a knot, right? And hopefully I'll leave good comments. We'll get Heather back on and maybe we'll get her to do some lighting or
This is so far out of my comfort zone.
tutorials for some other stuff.
So schmoopy.
I appreciate everybody for watching. We will see you next time.
Hey, ask me how I did it. I'm telling them grace. Ask me how I